Welcome to the Creative Leadership Network, where education is the specialty and solutions are the art. I'm IBK, and today, this is what I want to talk about. Jay-Z. Everybody's talking, right? So I might as well jump on in and put my little 2 cents in. But we're going to go a little bit deeper than just 2 cents. We're literally going to talk from a leadership angle. But before we get to the leadership angle, because as you know, this is a news, education, and leadership development network, right? So right here on TCLN network, that's what we do. We take information that's in the news, that's trending, or that's talking about leaders or profile people. And basically, we love to look at the insights and the information that is given unto us, break that information down, and to kind of see what's really going on behind the scenes, right? So that's why I'm here, and let's get into it. Jay-Z, of course, did an exclusive interview with GQ. So we're going to go a little bit into that. I'm going to show you a few clips. Jay-Z made some statements that I believe that when we look at them and we break them down, we get to look at them from many different angles, right? Sometimes people can say things and we can hear things and we can hear statements and we will actually believe that it is the end all be all. So we're going to break down some of Jay-Z's statements. We're also going to talk about how he actually said that he felt, right? So there's different opinions about how he felt and what people are actually saying. This is very, very important because there's an old statement, as I was saying, that people say, put yourself in someone else's shoes, walk a mile in their shoes and see if you actually like those shoes or not. And like some people will say, by the time you stick your toe in it, you will say, oh no, right? You don't even want to go through that, right? So again, we're going to talk a little bit about that, how he was talking about how he felt, what it made him feel like to go through being accused of messing with a 13-year-old child or assaulting or whatever the insinuations may be. I'm also going to speak on three men who were involved in Aaliyah's life. The reason why I want to speak on that is because there is a lot of information out there on the internet. People are saying so many things. Aaliyah has been like deceased for like, oh my God, so many years now, right? But people have brought up so much of her past and they actually have so much to say about this young lady's life. And it's rumored around 3 men named Dash, R. Kelly, and Jay-Z. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that because I think it's very, very important. There are some key factors that people are kind of leaving out when they're selling you these stories or the things that they want you to know or to pay attention to. You know, and I'm not going to lie. It brings in likes. It brings in shares. People get to monetize. But in doing that, are people hurting other people's lives while they're doing that and while they're trying to monetize, while they're trying to make money and survive in this society today? Or are they actually giving you some facts and some truths? So we're going to touch a little bit on that. And then last, I'm going to touch on someone that I think we've all came across if you have been on social media. Her name is Jaguar Wright. And of course, she has definitely been a critic of Jay-Z and many other artists in the entertainment industry. So I do want to cover a little bit about what Jaguar Wright has had to say, right? On the Creative Leadership Network today, which is known as TCLN Network. I talk from a educational standpoint and from a leadership standpoint. So we can develop ourselves, develop the way that we think, and to think critically and not just listen to stuff you hear out there, right? Now, if you're looking for the gossip, it's a bunch of it out there. It's a whole bunch. And you probably have to go to those channels and find it, okay? But if you're looking more for insightful, just a conversation that's wrapped around insight, some research and some facts, and that way you can kind of critically think for yourself, then this is the show for you, okay? So all of that and more coming right up. All right, so let's start off with Jay-Z and the GQ interview. So just to backtrack, just in case you guys are wondering, you know, a lot of times we assume that everybody knows the story. We assume that when people come across our information, they just automatically know, you know, what's going on. It's like where your head been in the sand. But the truth is everybody is not watching everything at all times. Sometimes people got to work. They hear hit, miss. So just in case you've heard hit, miss, this is about Jay-Z. This is a rap artist in the entertainment industry. He's not just a rap artist. He's also a business executive. He owns his own company. So he does a lot, right? but it's about the 2020 civil lawsuit that was alleging that he had assaulted a 13-year-old girl some years prior. He's also have been mentioned in Epstein files. And so just in case you don't know what the Epstein is, they've been trending in news talking about all the different elites, or what they call elites, anywhere from presidents, past presidents, to just, everyday artists. But anyway, people who run in circles, who got a little money. You understand what I'm saying? And we say a whole lot of money, but people fail to realize they don't think for themselves. A lot of money that you think that people have, they really don't have. They have people they got to pay, staff they have to pay, co-partners they have to pay. So the money is really not what you think it is. You understand what I'm saying? It is, but it's not. So, but that's another story for another day. But just to stick on track, just so you'll know, just in case you've been working hard, or maybe you don't like listening to a whole bunch of stuff out there because there's so much gossip, so much rumors, so much things, that's not being told right. So you just kind of turn it off and unplug, right? But just to remind you, that's what this is about, right? And so he went through this battle and he went through this situation. And of course, he went through it and he decided, I am not selling it. So there was an attorney that came after him, which was Mr. Bugsby, right? And I'm going to show you guys a clip from Good Morning America. I do want to show you previous clips. So I'm going to show you different clips. So we're going to start off with Jay-Z. We're going to start off with a few statements he had to make about his experience. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to go over to what his attorney had to say. I think these clips are going to be important for you. Now, I know there are going to be people who are going to debate. They're going to say, oh, they probably threatened that person. They probably did all kinds of stuff to make that person shut up. But I think that after you see these clips, you need to make judgments for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Too many times we're going off of he say, she say, and all kinds of stuff on the internet, whether we like a person, whether we don't, whether we agree with a person, and whether we don't. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to take out and separate whether you like an artist or whether you don't versus what you're actually hearing, and is it actually the truth? You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to go a little bit over that. So first I want to start with the actual problem, right? Let's get to the problem. The problem is this. As you know, there have been different people coming out over time. Not just Jaguar Wright, but many different people that have been coming out sharing what's called their stories, right? And it's not our job to judge whether their story is correct or whether their story is incorrect. It's our job to listen and to listen to the information and to listen wisely and critique, right? And to see, and at times to empathize. Sometimes we do need to empathize because we ourselves have been through situations, right? But sometimes we need to be discerning to know the difference between empathizing versus, do you understand what I'm saying? Just, I'm going to cling to what you have to say because I've been through what you've been through. And I'm not looking at stuff objectively. And I'm not looking at things truthfully. I'm just going to automatically just go with what you saying, the artist, or what this person is saying, or what that person is saying, and not understanding that every story is going to be different. And if you're not careful, that will cause a lot of slander. It will cause a lot of misinformation. And it's easy for us to do, guys. It is so easy. That's what we fail to realize. It is so easy to say, I've been through that. I know exactly what they're talking about, and blah, 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 and you will gravitate. But just because the story is similar, it does not mean necessarily it may be the same outcome or the same situation or the same problem. You understand what I'm saying? Or the same, what you call, outcome. So we have to be careful, right? Because we relate to stories that we've been through, But just because we've been through something, it doesn't mean that it's the end all and be all for someone else's story. And that's where the leadership tips come in at. Think objectively, stand back, say, okay, I've been through this. Or maybe you was a successful executive or anything, maybe not a rapper. You could have been anything, and you could say, or just maybe in your younger years, whatever the case may be. And you can also say, I've been through that. You understand what I'm saying? But your job is not to gravitate towards stories just because you've been through something. Your job is to listen, if you want to develop those leadership skills. Your job is to listen and be open and to find the information you need to find so that you can kind of make the decisions that you feel that, bear witness to what you are hearing, right? So let's just start off, like I said, with the problem. The problem is that we know there's been a lot being reported in the media, on social media, all this stuff about different type of men, right? Different type of, and these men are prominent. So either Epstein Islands or either rappers or either successful business people. And a lot of these stories are coming from the past, right? They're not coming from something current. They're coming from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, anything from Cosby to R. Kelly to the Weinstein to all these different guys, right? A lot of guys to Epstein Island, all of that. And all of these stories are coming out. And so everybody's getting to listen to all of these things, right? And so everybody's forming their opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is sometimes that's exactly what people are doing. Sometimes people are more slandering than they are more giving truthful information, and sometimes we don't wait. Like, we have to be careful instead of just waiting to say, okay, well, I hear that, but let me wait a little bit more to see what else comes out, right? And that happens a lot in the media. Like, look at all the different stuff that happened with ICE, all the different stuff that has happened with different people. You first see something emotional. You first see a cop do this or this happen or that happen, and you're very emotional because you see a clip, right? A lot of us have been through so much with officers or people are trying to hold us back or just do any kind of thing. So we emotionally relate to that. We emotionally relate to stuff. But sometimes as more and more information come out, if we stay objective, we will literally find out, oh, okay, it was some more to that story. It's not what it appeared to be. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by, even though we know there are truths in things, and even though we know we can relate to things, if we're not careful, we can easily gravitate and mix up information. So that's what I'm saying. Now, with that being said, let's get on to what I really, like I said, some things I definitely want to cover. I do want to start off with this. Let's go off with Aaliyah. There's a lot of information about Aaliyah. And if you listen to social media, you will hear a lot. You will hear a lot about she was murdered. You will hear people saying things about Beyoncé and that she had something to do with it because they wanted Beyoncé to be the famous one. So they needed to get rid of Aaliyah. Aaliyah was her competition. And you would hear, the back and forth with talent and people judging whose talent is better and who's not. They do that within the group itself. They do that with Beyoncé and Kelly. They always comparing the two. They're always trying to say that, this person is overrated or underrated or, it's just a lot of talk, guys. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at Aaliyah, people were digging up Aaliyah, right? And they were digging up the past of Aaliyah and saying that she was murdered. Things happened to her. We've heard different stories. You guys know. If you're on that social media, and you can just go look those stories up. But I want to talk about Dame Dash, Jay-Z, and R. Kelly, and Aaliyah. And I want to base it around age, right? The reason why I want to base it around age is because during that time when hip-hop was going on, that was during your 80s, your 90s, you understand what I'm saying? And those were very, very, if you looked at anything on my platform, you've heard me talk about those years. You've heard me talk about music and the music industry. And when it started to take a toll, right? When people started singing about women. I wish I can play a couple of songs, but I don't want to get a copyright, so I'm not going to play those songs. But think about on Johnny Gill when he was talking about, put on your red dress and don't slip on your high heels, And he was talking about a woman. You sure look good tonight. My. Songs like that, right? And then you would go from those kind of songs to even songs like with other entertainment and other races of artists. Y'all remember that one song where it talked about Lady in Red? Lady in Red. Guys, I can't sing. But Lady in Red, just that beautiful song. You show so beautiful. You look so beautiful tonight. And music industry started going from things like that to telling stories like the Isley Brothers and telling stories with music and women and relationships and all of this. To all of a sudden, you're a B, you're a H, you are this and a that, and you're N word, you're this, and drop it like it's hot, and B's on my tail and H's on my swell, and it started taking a negative turn, right? A very, very negative turn. And it wasn't just hip hop like you think. A lot of people blame hip hop, but I even remember Madonna when Madonna came out with Like a Virgin. And she had the black man up on the cross. You know, a lot of people get that. But I have to remind people, they try to act like things was just took this toll like it's now. No, it was taking a toll way back then. And I remember all the Catholics jumped up. People was like, what in the world? Heck no. And everybody was like protesting against Madonna. You know, it was sensual, it was sexual. And all the black community was like, is she protesting it because it's a black man up on the cross? What if it was a white dude up on the cross? You know, like it was stirring all these conversations, right? But it was this, you know, these kissing scenes. It was just all kinds of stuff, right? And it provoked like stuff in culture. And then you had Prince. Everything was sexual and mookable with Prince, you know. And then you had Michael Jackson, where he would grab the crotch, you know, and all these kind of things, you know. So, and then you had Salt and Pepper, you know, shake your thing. I'll do what you want to do. Now, when I'm saying all that to say, you know, and you even had TLC. You had all of this. You had like, let's talk about sex, baby. A lot of people don't remember this. You had George Michael. I want your sex. You know what I'm saying? George Michael was so freaking handsome. Let me tell you something, y'all. George Michael was so handsome. Go look at them photos back of him in the 90s and the 80s. Y'all, he was so handsome. Your black grandmamas liked him. Your mamas liked him. Everybody liked him. I remember being a young girl. I was like 13 years old, if not younger, when all this stuff was popping. And guess what? We watched it on BET. We watched it on MTV. It was just that simple. We heard it in radios. R. Kelly. Age ain't nothing but a number. Going down ain't nothing but a thing. And all these big grown adults try to pretend like they don't know what that song meant. We at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old knew exactly what that song meant. And all these adults just gonna go see now, and everybody gonna pretend like they didn't know what that meant. And that's why I like to talk about stuff like this. Because we easily will like be like, y'all nasty, y'all bad people, y'all this. But the truth is, y'all, it was all embedded in culture. I talk about it all the time. People will make monsters, then they will stone them. People will typecast you as the, you know, you're this sex person, this sex pod, and then you will sell sex your entire life. Like, look at Usher. Usher just did a concert not too long ago. He emotionally, mentally, and spiritually sexed about 20 women on the stage. All kind of women on the stage. You understand what I'm saying? And people say, oh, but he wasn't really sexing. Oh, sex is emotional, y'all. Sex is spiritual. How many times people have had sex? Let's be real. And you wasn't feeling it. And you just doing the physical thing. And you be like, you know, like you ready for the person to get up and go on about their business. Let's be real. You are. Why? Because you have to feel it. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's way more than that. So when you are all up there and yeah, they call it entertainment. But baby, it be freaky. You know, it be freaky. You can go see the stuff. It be freaky. There's literally stuff you do in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? You just not doing it physically. It's spiritual. You understand that? It's emotional. So let's be real. So that's what I mean by this stuff is embedded. Do you, like, guys, I am not looking at a script right now. I'm just naming all this stuff. Why? I saw all that stuff at 13, 15 years old, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Y'all get what I'm saying? So all of this stuff was embedded. Like, it was a part of culture, a part of music. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to remind you of that. Now, to get back to Dame Dash, Jay-Z, R. Kelly, and Aaliyah. You hear a lot about R. Kelly and Aaliyah, and how he married this young girl, and how Jay-Z wanted her. I know y'all have heard the rumors out there. Jay-Z wanted her, but she didn't really want Jay-Z. She wanted Dame Dash, and Dame Dash dated her. I went and did a little research. I said, I wonder how old Aaliyah would have been if she wasn't deceased, right? Aaliyah would have been 47 today. 47, okay? So how old was Dame Dash? 54. That's how old he is today. How old is Jay-Z? 56. That's how old he is today. How old is R. Kelly? 59. That's how old he is today. I want to say that again. I want you to really get this. So if Aaliyah wouldn't have been alive today, she'd be 47. That's almost 50 years old. A couple of years, 3 years from 50. How old is R. Kelly? 59. How old is Jay-Z? 56. How old is Dame Dash? 54. Do y'all get what I'm going? So when we grew up, people, can I be honest with you guys? People dated younger girls. Somebody that was kind of like maybe some years younger than them. Now, I'm not excusing child molestation. Don't put words in my mouth. Understand what I am really saying. You understand what I'm saying? Because again, all these people was near the 50 bracket. If you would have been 47 today and Dame Dash would have been 54, tell me how many years that is. If you would have been 47 and a person is 56, how many years is that? You understand what I'm saying? That's what I want you to look at. That's what I want you to look at. So 47 subtract 56 is 9 years. Okay. 47 subtract 54 is 7 years. Okay. Y'all get what I'm saying. I want you to just stay with me. Pay attention. 47 subtract 59 is 12 years. So with Aaliyah and R. Kelly, you have a difference of 12 years. With Jay-Z and Aaliyah, you have a difference of 9 years. With Dame Dash and Aaliyah, you have a difference of 7 years. You understand what I'm saying? So what I am saying is that many years in culture, you've always had a younger girl and an older boy or an older guy. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, don't put words in my mouth. I'm not excusing any type of child molestation or any type of underage or any of that. I'm going to give my own life as an example. When I had my first child, I was 15 years old. The guy that I got pregnant by was 19 or 20 years old. By law, he is considered an adult. I am considered a child. By the way, I did not get pregnant around my parents. I got pregnant in Child Protective Services custody and in foster care. I'm saying all this to say is many years, there was this thing where the younger girls or the younger guys were with older guys. That was in white culture, black culture, Hispanic culture. You see it all day long. You know, a lot of people, even when they have arranged marriages, the girls would be younger and the guys would be older. So understand what I'm saying, the culture that you live in and how things operate. Do you understand? So if Aaliyah would be 47 today, and these guys are just within a span of, it's just within a span of 10 years of her. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Now, you can take it how you want to. I'm just saying, look at how culture was. That's why your grandpas were older than your grandmothers. That's why, no, seriously, let's be real, y'all. Seriously, this culture has been like that for years. That's why your 14, 15, 16-year-old grandmother, a lot of times, had an older man? And they married an older man. So number one, we have to look at how culture was a long time. And then you have to look at how they started putting laws in place. You understand what I'm saying? To say, no, now, if you're this age, you can't deal with that age. You have to wait till they become this age. You understand what I'm saying? So that then you can be with that age. And I just wanted to point that out, right? So that you guys can really understand it wasn't considered a nasty thing back then. It just wasn't. I'm sorry, guys. I know people look at it different today, and that's fine, but it wasn't then. That's why a lot of men had these younger girls and married these younger women, and they married them back then too. They really did. That's why your grandpas were older than grandmas and all that kind of stuff. And no, that wasn't for every single body, but it was for a lot of families, guys. Sorry. I know it's hard for things for people to admit, but that's how culture was. Do you understand that? It happened that way. So that's why I wanted to point that out. A lot of times people want to take the information, run with it. Oh, you're this, you that, you this, you that. But they really don't want to look at the facts and the truth of how culture and life was presented at certain times. So I wanted to go over that, right? Now, to get off of that, let's get on. And again, I wasn't there with these guys and with that life. I know Dame Dash dated Aaliyah. He was crazy about Aaliyah. I know that R. Kelly, it was put out there that he had married Aaliyah. And Jay-Z, it was rumored, because I haven't found any facts on it, but it was rumored that he liked her and somehow she didn't like him or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or she liked Dame Dash more or whatever they were saying. But it has been these rumors and all these stories have been wrapped around these three guys when it comes to her. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. I wanted you to understand, coming from those eras and even way back before, you understand what I'm saying, before the 80s and 90s, people really don't understand that a lot of that stuff was like that in culture. And people did not look at it the way we look at it today. I just wanted to remind you, okay? So now let's start talking about how Jay-Z felt when he was being accused of SAing a young 13-year-old girl. Let's watch the clip.
This clip is used for commentary, analysis, and education under Section 107 of the Copyright Act.
Looking back on the last year.
It was hard, really hard. I was like heartbroken.
Really?
Yeah, I'm glad we got right to that.
This morning, rap titan Jay-Z speaking out about the 2024 sexual assault lawsuit filed against him.
It was hard, really hard. I was like heartbroken.
In a rare sit-down with GQ, the 56-year-old mogul, whose real name is Sean Carter, addressing the now-withdrawn civil lawsuit from a Jane Doe alleging that he and fellow rapper Sean Diddy Combs drugged and raped her at a 2000 VMAs after-party when she was just 13. Allegations both men vehemently denied.
I haven't been that angry in a long time. Uncontrollable anger. Like, you don't put that on someone. Like, that's the thing that you better be super sure.
Okay, so he lets you know that he had this uncontrollable anger. He lets you know that that was heartbreaking for him to have to go through that. Can you imagine a bunch of fans loving you, and then everybody turning on you, and you're a monster, you know? And you have to deal with a lot of talk. You have to deal with hearing things around the way. You know, even before that even came out, there had been these battles about Jay-Z and him taking advantage of people, and, you know, they taking advantage of their music, taking advantage of this and taking advantage of that. And so now all this stuff is just piling up, and then bam, you get hit with that. So now it makes you look even more of a monster. You understand what I'm saying? My question to you is this, and this is what I want to ask you. And I want you to be honest with yourself. You don't need to comment in the comments, and I know you probably won't, because this is very personal. So I'm not going to even ask you to make a comment in the comments on it, because it's too personal. But I will ask you this. Take off the judgment zone. If you were in those shoes, how would you feel? No, honestly, how would you feel? If that happened to you, and the entire world, okay, put it like this. You've been through some things, right? Some people have said some things about you that you said wasn't true, and it hurt you. Now, just imagine you being in the spotlight, and masses of people are saying all kind of stuff about you. But they're not just saying the stuff about you that you've been hurt with. They're actually accusing you of essaying a 13-year-old child. How would you feel? No, seriously. You ain't gotta go in the comments. You ain't gotta answer. But he answered. That was his answer. He felt uncontrollable anger, and he felt an emotional toll. It was taking a toll on him, right? Also, let's talk about family. There was a lot of rumors out there. Oh, Beyoncé probably gonna divorce him, and let's tell you how she gonna divorce him and what she's gonna do. She's gonna play it off, and she's gonna do this and this and that, but she can't have that associated to her brand. Y'all heard it out there. People were saying a lot, right? But let's talk about it from his perspective.
And
He had
Jay-Z.
I don't know. This is the first thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
Actually, it was just like, all right, man, we played enough defense.
How would you rate your 2025, like, looking back on the last year?
It was hard, really hard. I was like heartbroken.
Really?
Yeah, I'm glad we got right to that, you know, so we could just get that out the way.
Okay.
Like, I was really heartbroken by, like, everything that occurred, you know, with all, like, you know, we in a space now where it's just, like, almost like consequence is no.
I was thinking about how you described last year as being angry, and for the first time in a while. Yeah. I wondered what it felt like to be pulled back into that feeling, and how you pulled yourself out, or how you leaned on the people around you.
Yeah.
I've been saying to pull you
Yeah, I
out.
needed the people around me more than ever. Because usually when I have that feeling, I would just make music and just be therapeutic. I'll blow it out.
Yeah.
And that would be like, you know, I'll move on. I had to sit in that for a long time. And luckily I had that. And right, again, I built this this circle that's really safe for me, of people that really love me, not using me, and like, you know, really care for my best interests. So I was able to have that in the time, you know, the most crucial time for me.
Yeah.
Especially people that were close to me, and I'll explain. So like, you know, when those type of things happen, people run. They don't care what happened. They don't care. It's like, save yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so I have partners. You know, I've had big deals with, I called my guy from LVMH, hey man, this is coming, and I can't get rid of it. I can't take a settlement.
Yeah.
It ain't in my DNA. First of all, first I had to tell my wife, let's just back up.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't even in me. I couldn't do, I know what this is gonna, the weight that this is gonna bring on our family. I can't do it. The makeup, I would die. It would have been cheaper, yes. Cheaper, quicker, move on with your life. It was like a testament, because people know me.
He had to sit down. He had to explain to his wife, I know that a lot of people gonna say a lot of stuff, not just about me, but about you too. But I can't sit there and settle. I can't settle. I can't be accused of something like this, and I just make a settlement. I can make a settlement, it can go away like other people did. He said, but I can't do that. He said, because I can't let somebody do that to my name. You understand what I'm saying? He said, so I'm letting you know, and I know you're going to feel it. Everybody going to feel it. But was that the gossip out there? That wasn't the gossip out there in the streets. The gossip in the streets is that she just as horrible as he is. And people were talking about her like a dog. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. And that's why I like to have these conversations, because people will literally dog you out. We've all been there. We may haven't been on it on that level and in that level of spotlight. But I'm going to tell you something, y'all. I know what it's like to have a whole city, a whole town look down upon you because of a lie. I haven't been on it on a national level. You understand what I'm saying? Where they on the spotlight. But I know. When I say I know, ooh, y'all, and to be lied on. That's why I don't get involved. I've heard about Boosie and that girl. I've heard about this. I don't get, when I say, there were people lying on me saying I said stuff about Jay-Z I ain't never said. They just lying. I made a video about Jay-Z. I made a video about P. Diddy. I made a video. These are prior videos. This is coming out about Jay-Z, P. Diddy. I even made a video about P. Diddy kids because people was coming for his kids. I say, listen, y'all, even if you're going to say that P. Diddy did something, just keep the kids out of it. You know, because I know that, let's just say my father did something. I didn't do it. If my daddy did something, I didn't do it. Why y'all trying to make, hey, I'm not a molester if my daddy was one. No. Don't bring that to me. So I, stood up for his kids in that way, and P. Diddy kids. There were things that P. Diddy have done, and there's some things that a lot of slander, people do slander, because remember, if they find out you did one thing, there's going to be people going to say you did 1,000 things. I mean, people really going to hammer you, right? And so I made a video about, hey, Diddy is not the only one. America is Diddy. Remember, I talk about music and culture and how these guys are groomed. I've been watching this since I was a kid. I know what I'm talking about. I grew up with hip hop. I grew up with gangster rap, NWA, all of that. I grew up child when they had DJ Quick. And a lot of people don't know this, but out of LA, baby, DJ Quick was the doc. If you don't know who DJ Quick is, then you don't really know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these types of things were embedded in culture. Baby, DJ Quick was off the chains back in the 80s and 90s. Like, couldn't nobody touch that dude. I don't care. You think Tupac was bad? No. You ain't heard of DJ Quick, baby. DJ Quick was off the chains. This dude was off the chains. But for some reason, he went on to live a different life, and the other rappers continued on. So I know my stuff. I grew up with this stuff, Of course, my mama didn't. But, we snuck in, how kids do. That's why I'm always advocating when it comes to the music industry. You understand what I'm saying? That there do need to be great change. There do. I do. I've always said it. I'm not going to change my mind on it. I know that an artist should be free to express, but an artist got to understand that no matter what, kids are going to hear your stuff. They just are. whether you want to accept it or not. Your Cardi B's, your Nicki Minaj's, all of you, no matter what you say, you have a lot of influence, and kids are going to hear your stuff. You was once kids, you heard everybody else's stuff, and you know our parents wasn't going to let us listen to that, but that don't mean we didn't hear it. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. So that's why I think that there do need to be some changes. You understand what I'm saying? Now, before I get into another subject, let's just go ahead and watch these clips from Good Morning America.
This morning, the woman who said she was 13 when Sean Jay-Z Carter and Sean Diddy Combs sexually assaulted her after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards is heard talking to private investigators about her claim and agreeing that Jay-Z did not assault her.
But Jay-Z you're saying he was definitely there? But he had no part in it, or he was just...
He was there. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly, yeah.
The woman is also heard saying her lawyer put her up to suing one of the world's most recognizable stars.
He was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him.
With Jay-Z? Busby did?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No.
ABC News exclusively obtained a minute-long excerpt of the recording made days after the woman, identified as Jane Doe, permanently dropped her lawsuit against both Carter and Combs last month.
The people around Mr. Carter wanted to know what happened behind closed doors. And so they asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself. She says, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Carter did not do this. It is effectively a lie. And the only reason Mr. Carter is even involved in this is because she was pushed to involve him, pushed to include him by a lawyer.
The accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, called it a blatant lie that he pushed Jane Doe to sue Jay-Z, and he sent us this recording of a phone call with his client.
They say that they have you on tape denying that Jay-Z assaulted you. Is that true?
No. No. They don't. I've never said that.
Okay. They also say that you told them, and they have it on tape, that I, Tony Busby, told you to came up with this plan and told you to say that Jay-Z assaulted you so you would get more money.
No.
Jane Doe said in a court filing, although I ultimately chose not to pursue them, I stand by my claims. She says in a sworn declaration that she felt intimidated and terrified at being confronted by these two individuals on my doorstep. Was she coerced in any way?
Of course not. They did not coerce her, promise or threaten her in any way, shape, or form. She voluntarily met and spoke to them, and she told them her truth, which was, under no circumstances did Mr. Carter do this. And number two, the only reason he's even involved in this is she was pushed to introduce him by a lawyer.
Does your client know Jane Doe?
No.
Ever met her?
No, Mr. Carter doesn't know Jane Doe, never met Jane Doe. There's no truth to any of this.
Now, do you see what I'm talking about? Do you actually see what I'm talking about? So not only do you get to see Jay-Z attorney talk, you also get to see Busby talk, right? And you get to hear the sincerity in his voice, Busby voice. You really do. He was like, you really get to hear he's sincere. You understand what I'm saying? So you get to see that there's something inside his voice that let you know, no, he didn't coerce her. No, he didn't do any of those things. And this man was actually misled. He was misled, and he thought he was really fighting this case. But do you get to see how that can be done like that? You understand what I'm saying? We know that attorneys can lie. Let's be honest. We know this. We know that attorneys can lie. They can. They lie all the time. So if they representing somebody that you know a big time criminal, you'd be like, you did it. But the attorney is great, and they have to do their job, and they get up there and they representing this person that has whatever to people. You understand what I'm saying? But when you listen to the side of Busby, you will really hear that sincerity. If you're a discerning person, you can hear that. You hear the sincerity because he's like, dang, I done got twisted up in something. You hear that in that, right? You're listening with a listening ear. So I just wanted to show you that just so you can see. Now, how many people who have been essayed at 13, 14, 15 years old, and they will be quick to say, Yes. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, that person did this. Yes, that person did that. Because I know the signs, and I know this and I know that. And what happens is when we don't wait for more information, just because it sounds close, it may not be the same story, right? So that's what I mean by be careful. So yes, I will be the first to admit, and guys, you've heard my story over and over and over. I grew up during the Cowboys time. I grew up during the time, honey, I was a young girl. There was a club in Dallas, Texas. It was one of the most famous clubs I'm telling you, in the USA. Your stars went there, your Cowboys went there, everybody went there. And trust me, when I say that times were so sexually perverted back then, I know what I'm talking about. I would never just open my mouth and say stuff. Music was starting to become a lot of perverted. Like I said, you went from all these singing about a woman and her beauty and her glory to all of a sudden things just switching up, music switching up, becoming more sexual, becoming more vulgar, and it was everywhere. Clubs bumping, people dancing on each other. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. When you're judging how nasty people are, even the club itself is a sex ritual. You go to the club, you get drunk, you dance with 3 or 4 different people, you emotionally have a good time, you're bumping and grinding on each other. You know, even that's spiritual and sexual in some ways. So you guys, I don't sugarcoat nothing, right? And so again, that was just what's embedded in culture. So that's what people fail to realize. Culture has a lot of sex in it. You know that. You look at it, you can't even sell an advertisement with somebody talking about, like it's just there. You can't miss it, right? So again, that's why I wanted to go over that. We have to be careful because many of women and guys are coming out to tell their stories now, have been molested, have been sex aid in some point. I said it. I just made a recent video. You can go watch it about the Epstein thing. I'll let you know that Epstein is not an island. Epstein is a concept. It is a concept of what we are facing, the reckoning of children and sex. You understand what I'm saying? In culture, in music, in everything. In child molestation. I say it all the time. You don't need an island to essay someone. You can be right here with some beer and some cigarettes in the backyard, in a barn, in a car, at a hotel. And it's all over America. And not just America, the world. Do you understand that? So I don't look at Epstein as an island, as a bunch of rich elites doing nasty stuff. Because people been doing that stuff for years. You don't have a college party and a sorority. You ain't sitting up thinking about exponents and math problems. No, people are getting down. People are doing sexual acts. People are doing perverted acts. Yes, even in college sororities and parties and getting drunk and hazing and, sodomy, all kinds of stuff. It's beyond. And that's why I look at Epstein as a concept of saying, as the universe or as God saying, hey, these are the things that y'all need to clean up. It's not just these people. It's everywhere in culture. You understand that? So that's why I like to talk about the real, because people want to argue and people want to fight who's right, who's wrong. But the truth is, it's everywhere. It's even in families. People hid for so long, families molesting one another. You understand what I'm saying? And other family members saying, don't say that. He didn't do that. Keep it a secret, And, you understand what I'm saying? Y'all, it's real. Now, before I go, let's touch a little bit about Jaguar Wright. You understand what I'm saying? Jaguar Wright has had a lot to say. A lot to say. Some people agree with her in totality. I mean, in totality. She's absolute right. She can say no wrong. And then some people straight call her a liar. I don't know why people always think they have to take sides. None of us were there, so you can't take sides. But I remind people all the time, if you wasn't there, you just don't know. You can only kind of go by information you're hearing and critique that information and see if that information is right or wrong, right? But to just blatantly take sides, I think that's what makes us sometimes look like conspiracy theories, or it makes us look like liars, or it can make us look like all kind of things, right? When I look at Jaguar Wright, I really am going to say this, and I'm going to leave it at that. I wasn't there. So I can't say what Jaguar Wright experienced or what she didn't experience. But I did grow up during that time just like they are. I'm around their age. I'm a little bit younger than them, but I'm still around their age. So I grew up with all this stuff, right? I know without a shadow of a doubt, sexual perversion was going on. People would put the rap music stuff in. People would put the records in, the music in, slow music, fast music, all kind of stuff. and all kind of sexual acts were happening in our neighborhoods. You don't have to be in the industry for it to happen. You don't have to be, a star for it to happen. All kinds of sexual stuff was going on, period. People was having orgies. People was having parties. People was skipping schools. I know I don't lie about those things. I'm not ashamed of my life. I'm not ashamed of nobody else's life. The world is what it is. We're learning and growing. There's some things that we learn from. There's some things that happened to us when we were young and we were just stupid and people just thought that was the way of life and things happen. And for anybody to try to act like those things didn't happen, folks lying. Folks just don't want to be honest with themselves. They're lying. So I would look at Jaguar and say, yes, there would be some things that Jaguar is saying in this earth that would be correct. But I would not take her at face value. And the reason why I say that is because I watched them do an interview with Jaguar Wright, and they asked her, would she collab with Jay-Z again? And she said yes, right? And so then all of a sudden, she's on this rampage with Jay-Z. She wants to tear his head off, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, what changed between you wanting to collab with him again versus he's this monster now? And she's saying, when they ask her in interviews, who's the worst? And she say, out of all of them, it would be Jay-Z, But guys, you've heard it out there. There's video footage and all kind of stuff of her saying and insinuating. I think when it comes to Jaguar, I think some of the stuff she is saying is relevant. But when it comes also, I think some of it is bitterness. I think some of it is, and I really do. I think some of it is that she didn't get to achieve what her goals and dreams was in that industry. And she just said, I am going to expose everything I know. But also, sometimes Jaguar is inconsistent and her statements are inconsistent.
Jag, why do you want to be sued?
Because I want to have to go to court. Because if I go to court, I got to swear on the Bible to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I believe in the God that they say that it's all about, so I'm not going to lie. And then I get to say all of those things that I haven't said on court record in front of a judge, which could open up other investigations into other things, which is why y'all niggas want me killed. Sue me, please. See how good I keep secrets, Sean? And I'm going to tell you something else, and I'll give you this one for free. Big L fuck better than you do, nigga. I'd rather be with that dead man than ever be with you.
So how do you know how Jay-Z get down? Do you know that from experience or?
Don't worry about that part. I'll tell it on the stand.
So right there, she said she was willing to get sued. She said, when I go on the stand, I'll be I'll tell them everything I know. So now Jag is all of a sudden backtracking and she don't want to get sued. Now, I'm not saying that I want her to get sued, but again, she welcomed it, right, you guys? She welcomed getting sued. Jag's been known for being this truth teller and speaking her truth, and she's been speaking out against Jay-Z for years, but now she's retracting her story. Remember, she even got up on my channel, was like, I don't know, like you guys are basically giving out misinformation, and we doctored the video. Remember she was claiming that, you guys? We doctored the video and all this other stuff, and it's all like, no, these are your words. Like, yeah, we didn't play the whole video, but nothing was chopped up to make you sound or say anything. You literally said these things about Jay-Z. Then I went live again because I was like, oh, I know Jag is contacting everyone to try to make them take down their videos or whatever. And then in another video that I had premiered last night, she was telling Terrence Williams that, oh yeah, I had to get a smorgasbord because Jay-Z didn't want me to have the baby or whatnot. Remember? She said she had to get a smorgasbord and that Jay-Z put his hands on her just like Diddy did Cassie. She said all this.
Trolling youth.
Well, that was something Nas said way back, saying, yeah, he was indulging with these back with R. Kelly.
And I wish I hadn't signed paperwork. And I wish I hadn't taken money. I wish.
Well, there's a lot of that you can't say.
Everybody else that didn't. I spent my time collecting these people. And they will have their day, and we will all get justice.
You know Jay-Z?
I know him. In more ways than one. He the only thing I'm embarrassed about. He ain't nothing but shame.
Well, so you care to share something you feel like?
He ain't no different than Diddy.
Oh, yes. But have you and him?
He just do it different.
Have you and Jay-Z ever had a run-in?
I know what his hands feel like.
Gotcha.
In more ways than one.
Have you been in a party with Sean Carter? With Jigga?
I've done more than that. A lot more than
Anything else you want to talk about, Jag? Because it seemed like there's something there with you and the Jay-Z, but you don't want to open up.
You don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I do. That's what I'm asking. I want to hear it. Huh?
You looking for a beef? Because anything I got to tell you is only going to make you mad.
All right, let me hear it. Let's go.
I know exactly how Cassie feels. I know exactly how long it took her to recover. Is that kicked me the same way he kicked her? Choked me the same way he choked. Diddy choked her. They the same person. He's abusive and he's cruel. And he stole. He tried to steal everything I love. But what he done to free? That boy is his son. And he'd rather him die than anybody know. She can't even work. She gave birth to a blessing, and all it's done is cursed her. And they wonder why I had an abortion.
Y'all heard that? You heard it, right? Right there. Right there. Not doctored, not anything. You can say it's clipped, but it's not doctored. Those are her words. And thank you, Unplugged Matrix. I appreciate that. Okay, I think this is Jag. Oh, hello, Jag, is this you? Hello?
You know it's me. You're pathetic. And I just want to let
She said, you know it's me. You're pathetic. Let me rewind that one more time, y'all. Let me rewind that back. That was good. I like that. You're pathetic. But how am I pathetic for playing your own words, ma'am? Here we go. I appreciate that. And hit that like button, too. This is Jag. Hello, Jag, is this you? Hello?
You know it's me. You're pathetic. And I just want to let you know this. That chopped and screwed bullshit you just played, that Star edited up and doctored up from that live that I did with Essie Berry and Tiffany Haddish, you are now publishing a lie.
Somebody called Tiffany. You know, I just chopped it to repeat it. Where you said Sean Carter.
No. You chopped and screwed it because everything that you just played wasn't in concession It was not consecutive. Y'all took that and mixed it up and screwed it up. But that's okay, because the story that Star is trying to convince all of you to run with about me saying that Sean Carter did that to me, that wasn't Sean Carter. The man that did that to me, his name was Trevor Green. He was Jamaican.
But you said Sean Carter in the video.
No, I did not. That was edited because you did not play the whole thing.
Hold on. Let's debunk that in real time real quick. Let's go ahead and debunk that. Because again, you have to call Jag out on the spot. You can't do it later. You got to call it out on the spot. So here we go.
Jag, why do you want to be sued?
Because I want to have to go to court. Because if I go to court, I got to swear on the Bible to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I believe in the God that they say that it's all about, so I'm not going to lie. And then I get to say all of those things that I haven't said on court record in front of a judge, which could open up other investigations into other things, which is why y'all niggas want me killed. Sue me, please.
Wow.
Please sue me. See how good I keep secrets, Sean? And I'm going to tell you something else, and I'll give you this one for free. Big L fuck better than you do, nigga. I'd rather be with that dead man than ever be with you.
So how do you know how Jay-Z get down? You know that from experience, or?
Don't worry about that part. I'll tell it on the stand.
Oh, wow.
When he takes me to court for defamation of character, I'll tell him how well I know you, Sean.
I know what it feels like to be strapped to a bed with a man put a gun in your head and tell you sing, or he's gonna blow your brains out while he's raping you. That's what Sean Carter done to me. That's what Sean Carter done to me. That's what Sean Carter done to me. That's what Sean Carter done to me.
You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying, because all of our stuff can seem inconsistent. It just can't, but we have to look at it. Why is it sounding inconsistent? Is it sounding inconsistent because maybe at one point, let's just say, I say, oh, I love Rob, and I'm up here saying, I love Rob, and Rob, my homeboy, and Rob this, and then something happens that causes a rift. Now I hate Rob, and now I am hammering in on Rob, and I'm telling all Rob's business, versus I am out here saying I choose to expose what's going on in the industry, but then you catch me saying I will collab with him again. And you see these little things, right? And it lets you know that there's some inconsistencies when she starts targeting and going after that particular person's life. I'm not taking up for that person. Like I said, I wasn't there, but that doesn't mean I have to be this person. You know what I'm saying? That I just jump on the bandwagon. When they arrested Jaguar in Texas at one point in time, I didn't even hear her talking about Jay-Z at that time. I didn't, because she was so busy at that time saying that she would collab with Jay-Z again. She was really talking about other artists at that time. It was other artists that she was talking about. And, and when they was arresting her, targeting her, I said, how do everybody go from calling her mentally ill and crazy and this and this and that? And everybody was on her side at one time. And then when she went to jail, all of a sudden people were stoning. So I kind of felt like, oh, I see what they're doing. Because I've seen people do that. People want you to go to jail so much. People want you to fall. People 1 minute with you, like with Jay-Z. 1 minute with Jay-Z, all of a sudden Jay-Z is this. 1 minute with Beyoncé, all of a sudden Beyoncé is nothing. She killed Aaliyah, or she got rid of Aaliyah. I mean, you see how all this, so it's a lot of stuff that's unstable is what I'm saying. And so that's what I mean by be careful of some of the stuff you're hearing out there. I just want to top these stories off with that. And that's kind of how I wanted to talk about these stories and how I wanted to hit it from my angle. You understand what I'm saying? So just kind of be careful what you're hearing out there. Just kind of be careful. There's a lot going on there. It is true that there was a lot of sexual perversion. There was a lot of getting drunk, getting high, folks doing stuff to people, sex orgies, all this. If people say it wasn't happening, they lying. They lying. But also at the same time, you have to be careful because you could be a person that for some reason people will just start targeting you and they'll just start coming after you. And for some reason, there could be some accusations there that may not be true. In the midst of all the other accusations going on, I'm going to give you an example and then I'm going to close this out. Morgan Freeman. I was in Los Angeles and I remember being at the Los Angeles library. So right there in Hollywood, up there on Melrose, close to Melrose. If anybody know Los Angeles, well, you got CBS back there on Fairfax. And you got the WGA across from Fairfax, and you got that Trader Joe's up in there. And that's just a popular area. CBS is right there. A lot of work. I've done work there myself. I did some extra work there and some show work there and all that kind of stuff. So I know about that whole little area. There's a Hollywood library right up the street and all that, major library. And so I remember one day just sitting at the library and I was working on my little project and I was watching some clips, right? And so they started coming after Morgan Freeman, right? Again, this is time of reckoning, time of exposure. So they started coming after Morgan Freeman. But previously, I had seen a clip with Morgan Freeman talking about, he was addressing some of the journalists, right? And they didn't have on any underwear. And so Morgan Freeman was talking to them. He said, listen, he said, why do y'all, now he wasn't nasty. He wasn't being nasty to the women. You know, Morgan Freeman is kind of like that sex symbol, the older guy, grayish, you know, sex symbol. So he was like, why you girls, you know, why y'all? He said, y'all interview us. He said, and then you guys, you know, some of y'all don't have no panties on. That basically what he was saying. You know, y'all be kind of naked down there. And then you open your legs and you cross your legs, you know. And he was like, you know, what be going on with that? You know what I'm saying? He was like, why do y'all do that? You know. But he wasn't like, you know, and then there was one girl, she turned around, she was like, Morgan, how do I look in my jeans? He was like, girl, you look fine, you know. And so and I hope I'm not saying the artist wrong. Sometimes I get my artists mixed up, so let me say it right. I'm thinking it's Morgan Freeman. It could be somebody else. But guys, you go and fact check. But I'm thinking it's Morgan Freeman, right? And so what ended up happening is all of a sudden they started coming after him. Like this man was, he's, you know, messing with women. He's doing this and he's doing that and he's being disrespectful. I said, oh, no, man. I said, they done went too far because I remember that. You understand what I'm saying? I said, they trying to bring this man down and his career down. And these are the women who was trying to like get up under him. You understand what I'm saying? I said, they are not doing this. And so, you know, my loud big mouth, you know how they be saying, these folks need to shut their big mouth. Well, God gave us a big mouth for a reason. I was like, no, y'all will not do this. So, of course, I made mentions of some stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying all that to, you know, be careful. In the midst of people trying to, sometimes people act like they protecting kids. Folks is more into trying to bring folks down more than they trying to protect children. People like a lot of gossip, or like a mess, a lot of hoopla, a lot of this. But for those of you in the process of trying to protect children and make sure that children are okay versus a lot of chaos being sold out there, make sure that you stay balanced because there will be people that are being accused of doing wrong when they're not necessarily doing wrong. And at the same time, there are those who are doing wrong, and you need to be able to have your discernment cap on and distinguish what's what. So that's why I made this episode, right? Be careful, guys. There's a lot of information, but we have to make sure. And I think Jay-Z said it best. He said, people just not checking anymore. Like they just throwing stuff out there and not checking. Let's just say Jay-Z is not the perfect person. Let's just say he may have did some things out there that maybe some other artists don't like. Maybe I don't like the way you handle my music. Maybe I don't like the way you did this. Maybe I don't like the way you did that. Maybe I feel that, you know, that you dropped me when we should have been together. But does that necessarily mean you essayed a 13-year-old child? No. So that doesn't mean people have a right to lie on you. Do that mean you might like girls that were younger than you while you were circling the rap industry and you wasn't even thinking about essaying nobody? Maybe Aaliyah was younger. Maybe people did have a crush on her. But did that mean that you had this intentional thing that you wanted to essay a young girl? No. So within it all, guys, all I'm saying is just kind of be careful, use your thinking cap. And while you wanting to protect children, while we're wanting to get wiser to see things that are happening, how culture has changed over time. Because like I said, they used to, older men, 40, we talking about 40-year-old men, guys. I'm telling you the truth, used to marry 13, 14-year-old girls back in the day. And it was approved. And would date, even in my time. And everybody knew around it. Everybody in Texas knew. I'm born and raised in Texas. Folks knew. Folks knew. And then there would be some gossip, some big mamas being like, he know his old ass ain't got no business with that young girl. But that was it. It wasn't like, oh, you going to prison for rape or this and that. When they started saying, okay, guys, we're going to start enforcing this law, this and this and that, then that's when things started to change. So I'm saying, like, put your thinking cap on. A lot of this stuff is coming from 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And a lot has changed since then. And I just like to bring the facts, bring the truth. I hope this speaks to you. I hope you can use the information to even maybe think about some of the stuff you've heard and go do more research and think about things a little bit differently, okay? So with that being said, thank you for joining into TCLN Network today. Make sure you're hitting that like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure you support financially. Cash App, PayPal, support, whatever you can give, 5, 10, whatever you have. Also, just remind yourself, whatever you're watching on the internet, it's good to watch. We learn from many different people, many different perspectives. But if you're going to make something and you're going to run with something, make sure you're doing your fact check. You understand? Do your fact checking. So that way you can at least say, hey, I may not have all the story, but this is what I can bring. And when you bring your experience, like me, when I bring my experiences, I'm bringing the truth. I know I'm not lying, but I'm keeping it balanced, saying, hey, I wasn't in their world, but I was showing my world. And I can attest that all that stuff was happening and going on. Okay. So I'm just saying, just kind of keep it balanced. So that way we don't have a lot of darkness out there, but we're adding to the light. We're adding to things getting better instead of just putting a bunch of chaos out there. Okay. So you guys be blessed. And as Dan Rather would say, courage, my friends, courage. See you again.
Network. This is leadership clarity, not just judgment. And right here on TCLN, I like to educate to elevate. But let me stop for a moment before we get into today's topic and do a deep dive. I want to introduce to you my new TCLN Claritative Intensive. You see, a lot of us, we just kind of go through life, right? We go through life, we kind of stumble, and we have these dreams, we have these great ideas of having a business, of owning a company, a big company, small company, it doesn't matter. Or we have dreams of grandeur, of just taking these ideas and just catapulting them. But many times we don't know where to start, or if we know what to start, we don't have support. And if we don't have support, then we don't have the finances. And then sometimes it's just all of that. Not to mention, then you have all of the adversaries trying to tell you who you can be and who you cannot be. And so with that being said, I want to share with you that I struggled many years going through that. I understood that I was made for more. I understood I had these big dreams, these big goals, but I really didn't understand how to make them happen. It held me back many years. And even when I began to see how to make them happen, I had to deal with, let me explain to you, like they said, new level, new devil, they're not lying. So then I had to deal with all kinds of obstacles and all kinds of things. But you know what I learned the most out of all of these situations, and not only building my platform of TCL Network, but also the journey of entrepreneurship. You know what I really truly learned? I learned that clarity, focus, and not only that, having a solid plan that is unique to you. I'm not talking about any kind of plan. I'm not talking about a plan that somebody hands you. I'm not talking about you sit down and you write a couple of things down, or you use ChatGPT and you just think it's over. No, I'm talking about a plan that is so solid, that is so uniquely you for the next 90 days that can catapult you forward. If you're looking for something like that, make sure you check in the description below.